All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming, and I think the time has come for us to try to build a TypeScript version of this calculator. But before we do, two things I wanted to mention to you quickly. First, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to open up I changed this around a little bit, so now under TypeScript I've got a calculator folder and a JavaScript and a TypeScript. The TypeScript is currently empty. We're going to change that in a moment. But if I go into the JavaScript and if I open up this and I also open up under JS there's something I just want to show you real quickly. Let's see. I added this. So when we give the answer and you wipe the clear history, it goes back to a 0. It wasn't doing that before, and that was one thing I said I was going to do. So again, if I come in here, I'm going to just run one thing real simple here. Let's do 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. There's my history. All right. But now if I click clear history, previously it wasn't going back to a 0. It is now. All right. It's not a big thing, but I just wanted to mention that to you. All right. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I did go out. If you go out to right here, make this bigger so you can see it. Just move that over. We don't need that. So if you go out to github.com/JeffTeachesProgramming/front-end, right there, what you're going to find is the TypeScript, the JavaScript calculator has been added. Okay? Just so you're aware of that. All right, so what I'm going to do next to try to make my life a little bit easier is to show you something. But before I do, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take everything that was in JavaScript calculator for now, copy it to the clipboard. I am going to go into TypeScript and let's make a folder and let's call it TypeScript Calculator. Hit enter. Let's open this up and then let's paste this in. Now it's kind of a good news, bad news situation. What I mean is, the good news is I think we can keep index and CSS without having to do anything. But this JavaScript that's in here, we don't need this anymore. If you say, well, geez, why is that? I'm gonna explain it in just a minute, all right? But I want to show you this. This is basically what this is going to look like. And what did we change? We changed the name of this to what? TypeScript Calculator. Okay. We've got our index.html. We will make the tsconfig.json in just a minute. So we've already got this file done. We've got this file done. And this file we've removed. And the reason we're going to remove it is after we create calculator.ts and we compile it or transpile it, it will create for us this file. All right. Hopefully that made at least a little bit of sense to you. All right. So again, what I'm going to do, the first thing that we want to do is we want to add the tsconfig.json file. And that file tells the TypeScript compiler where to find our source and where it should put the compiled JavaScript. All right. So let's start by coming in here and let's double check and make sure everything looks good. So let's do a CMD here. And I'm going to make this bigger. And I'm going to say node minus v. Got to spell it right. Okay, and ts minus v T is a TSC minus V. Here we go. So we're running Node, we're running TypeScript. So let's Google how to create a tsconfig.json file for my TypeScript app. Okay, it says you can create this automatically by running the command npx tsc-init in the root directory of your project. Well, the root directory of our project should be, all right, well, before we do that, I guess I'm going to have to get to that root, but I think we're there. Yep. Now, I don't want to be under the JS here, but I want to be there. Now, where is that? All right, where is that? So that is under TypeScript-Calculator, TypeScript-Calculator. So that's where we're running this from. So the first thing we want to do is we want to CD to that. You can type in dir just to be sure, and you can see that's where we are. Okay, we've got our JS folder, we've got our index.html, and we've got that. Everything is there. All right. So it said that the command we were supposed to put in there was this. So let's copy that. And then let's run this. So it's npx, which is a Node package manager command, tsc, which is the TypeScript compiler, --init. Okay, and it says that it created a new tsconfig.json file. It says you can learn more about it if you want to go there. I'm not going to do that. All right, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go back out to where we just were here, and there's tsconfig. So if we edit this and open it up, this, I didn't make this. This was created for us. All right. It says visit this to read more about this file. There's the file layout. There's the output directory. There's our environment settings. This is going to become more important later. I'm not going to talk about it now. All right. And it's got a bunch of stuff in here that it's set up for us automatically. All right. Okay. So I wanted to get that done as we start here. Okay. So we added the tsconfig.json file. Now the compiler does know now where to find the source file and where to put, also known as emit, the compiled output. All right. We've installed TypeScript. Well, we installed Node first, and we installed TypeScript. All right. And if you remember from what I showed you a bit ago, I'm going to close this. Okay. We need a source folder, and we need a JS folder in here. We've got the JS folder, which is empty right now, but we need a source folder. All right. And I could just copy over what we have, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start anew, so to speak. And we're just going to basically type in everything from the get-go. And this is going to be a bit to type in. And of course, I'm not going to finish it in one folder, in one video. All right. So let's make a source folder. Okay, and we're going to add this file to it. All right, so src. Okay, and what we want to do is we're going to go to, all right, and I'm going to type in Notepad, calculator, .ts. I typed in something. Oh, I put note paid. All right. So there it is. It says cannot find this file. Do you want to create a new one? Yes. And I'm going to do a file, save. So now, where I am here in my source, if I type in dir, I now have calculator.ts, which is empty. So for now, at least, I'm going to exit here. We might have to get into it later, but that's okay. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to, in here, I'm going to open up in TypeScript-Calculator. I'm going to open up my index file. And under source, I'm going to open up my empty calculator.ts file. All right. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define a TypeScript interface for our calculator state. All right. When we used JavaScript, the state was basically just an object literal we used, and it didn't have any enforcement. So we could break things because JavaScript allows you to do that. TypeScript interfaces, they give us a few things. They give us what's called an autocomplete, a compile time error if a property name is misspelled, and clear documentation of what we're trying to do. So let's start here, and we're going to type in interface. We'll call it calc state. Call it calculator state. It doesn't really matter. It's going to go into curly braces here. All right. And we're going to have current, and that's going to be a string. And that's going to be right. I'm going to put comments in all these. This will be what is shown in the result display. So that's where your answer goes. Previous, which is a string. It can also, now this is one thing that you're allowed to do in TypeScript, or null. And that's going to be the left-hand operand, or null if not set. All right, next we're going to have the operator, which again can either be a string or it can be null. And that'll be what? That'll be the addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Again, or null if not set. All right, next we have this thing we used before called wait for next. I guess we're going to move these over. And this is going to be a Boolean. And this will be true after an operator is pressed. So if we hit the plus, minus, multiply, or divides. Finally, we're going to have history. And that's going to be a string array. And this will be an array of past expressions. You saw this already from what I just showed you. When we did the 5 times 5, it said 5 multiply 5 equal 25. All right, that's an example right there of it. All right, now, probably should put some kind of a comment in here. I said it, but I should put some kind of a comment in here. All right. All right. This TypeScript interface replaces the object literal we had in the JavaScript version of our calculator. Among other things, a TypeScript interface does the following. Provides a compile time error if a property name is misspelled. It also provides clearer documentation of exactly what the state contains. Finally, what I'm going to add in here, the used below is the union type, is the TypeScript union type, which allows either of the types shown, and in both cases it's string or null, as valid types. Okay? All right. Like I said, I'm not in any hurry to finish this. Okay, next. We're going to come in here and we're going to define a type alias for valid operator strings. Now you might say, well, what is that? Well, look, we're going to say here type operator equals add, subtract, multiply, divide. Now, what that does for us is it says anytime we use this operator that we just created, anytime that we do this, those are the only 4 values it's going to be able to hold. Okay. Next, we're going to define a type for our keyboard map entries. Each one of these key maps is going to be what's called a tuple. In other words, it's going to be the action and an optional value. All right, and we're going to make it read-only to make it immutable. So TypeScript will enforce it. Again, if that doesn't make sense, hey, this is a ways down the road. So type, we'll just call this key map entry. We're going to set that again. We'll set it to read only, so we've got control over it. And it'll be a string. And that'll be for the action and an optional value. Oops. And how do we show that? We show that by putting a question mark here, which means we can have it or not have it. All right. All right. Next, and we're already probably getting up here in time, I suppose. Yep. So let me do this, and then we'll put this first part of this to rest. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare state with the calc state type. We just defined that calc state up above. That's our interface. So we're going to say const state calc state equals, and in curly braces here, current. That'll be null. I'm sorry, that'll be 0. Previous, and that'll be null. Operator, and that'll be null. Wait for next, and that'll be false. Let's move these all over one. And history. You might have noticed I'm going to just make this an empty array. I'm going to put a semicolon after, or I'm sorry, another comma afterwards. I don't think you have to, but the reason that I am doing that is that's the way it's typically shown. All right, so everything inside of here is the same. The only thing that we've added is an annotation called state. So this is what we've done so far. Not too much. We're down on line 34. We put in 10 lines of comments, so really we got 24 lines in here. We set up an interface, and I explained what each of the things in that interface are. We talked about what a union type was. We defined an operator with a type alias. We defined a type for our keyboard map entries, and finally we declared a state. All right, I'm going to pick it up with the next lecture in just a couple minutes. I'll probably just do one or two tonight, and that's it.